You're listening to Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. We're coming to you from the unceded traditional territories of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh nations around Vancouver, BC. I'm your host, Bernadine Fox, and this is the show that dares to change how we think about mental health. Welcome to Rethreading Madness.
When I've never been further from knowing what the hell I'm gonna do, when I can't seem to find my way under or over or through.
You're listening to Rethreading Madness on Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. I'm Bernadine Fox, and right now I have the pleasure of speaking with Theo Cuthand, who's a filmmaker out of Toronto, but we're talking about lots of things, but the focus of this is about being bipolar and having ADHD. You said that you were diagnosed with ADHD in your 40s?
Yeah, I think it was, I don't even remember what year. It was like at least 5 years ago, I think, though.
And did you go on medication right away, or did you just get the diagnosis and
I went on Vyvanse right away,
okay.
and yeah, I've upped it a couple times. I'm still on it. I find it helpful, but then once in a while I won't take it, and I also perform really well at my job, so I don't. So sometimes I don't know if it's really helping or not. Anyway, it does do something though, so I don't know.
So, dumb question then. When you take it, do you feel it doing something for you or
Yeah, it's easier to focus. I guess the thing about ADHD is I can focus on something for a really long time because that's
mm,
just like hyper focus. But
right?
it feels like with Vyvanse, I can focus more on things that I might find boring otherwise, like taxes or like, getting paperwork done. Whereas, before when it was like no Vyvanse, it would just be like, I'll hyper focus on editing this video because I find that fun. But, the taxes don't get done and
Right.
yeah, so that kind of thing.
Yeah, in a perfect world, nobody would have to do taxes, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Um, so funny story. I have a kid who has ADHD and they put her on uh I think it was a dexamphetamine. I think that's what they called it. Anyway, I was gonna give her her medication. I had it in my hand. I was walking around the house before going upstairs to give it to her. And you know how you just automatically you have a pill in your hand, you take the water and you drink it. And I did that and I sat
Oh,
there going, oh damn, now what? Like, and I sat down waiting for it to like hit me like crazy. Nothing happened.
yeah.
Literally nothing happened. And so I don't know quite what that means, but yeah, no. I know people take it, Adderall and stuff like that to, um, study and get things
Mhm.
done, but did not do anything for me, which may mean I don't know. So you talk about ADHD as having sort of superhuman abilities, and that it does something for you that helps you think about writing and doing art. So you talk a little bit about what is the nature of your art that you do.
Yeah, I do. Mainly I'm known for making experimental like queer films, indigent queer films, two-spirit films, but yeah, it's a lot of personal work too. Just tell my story about like just how I see life and the communities I'm part of. And a lot of them were like made with very little to no budget, so kind of like rough kind of looking videos. But yeah, that's kind of the work I do. It's like also like they've screened in galleries and festivals, like they're not totally like niche or like only on YouTube or something, but yeah.
And so how does having ADHD impact on doing those things? Does
Oh,
it
yeah.
enhance your creativity? Does it enhance your ability to put ideas together? Or
Yeah, I think it definitely enhances creativity and like the way my ideas flow. Like, I don't know. I did this one film called Less Lethal Fetishes, which is about art washing. Because I was in the Whitney Biennial, and I was in the year that Warren B. Canders was on the board, and they were trying to get him off because he was a war profiteer. So I made a video about that and kind of like the places it went to. Like I was talking about like gas mask fetishes, and like also this war profiteer, and also like art washing, and so it was like kind of weaving these different stories together of the film. And I don't know, and then someone asked me, how did you like think of all of those things? I'm like, I don't know, my brain just like put those lines together and it made sense to me. So I
Yeah.
made this thing, and that's kind of like just the way my creative process works. But I guess not everybody can like use their brain in that kind of way, which I don't really understand. So
Yeah, I don't understand the question of somebody asking, how did you think that way? I wouldn't know how to answer that either. Can you
yeah.
define what art washing is?
Art washing. In this case, it was because the Warren B. Canders was getting money from Safariland, which was his company, which was using tear gas on like people in Palestine and the U.S.-Mexico border and Ferguson protests. So it was like, really clearly, like bad guy kind of money that, and he was putting money into the Whitney Museum of American Art, which is basically what they call art washing is kind of like you're kind of like paying for your sins by like giving it to like
Right.
art.
I
So
get it. Yeah, I get that.
mhm.
So if you were to describe what ADHD is like having, um, even when you're on Vyvanse, and we should say what Vyvanse is because it's not a dexamphetamine. But it's also not Strattera, which is, if I'm right, a non-stimulant. Vyvanse is what? Where does Vyvanse sit in there? Do you know?
I think it's lisdexamfetamine. So it's one of the amphetamines, but it's
Okay.
supposed to be harder to abuse, I think, or something.
So if somebody doesn't have ADHD, taking this Vyvanse would not get them whatever buzz that you would get if you didn't have ADHD. Is that
I don't know. I think you still might, but I guess it's like I don't understand what they mean when they
okay?
say the
Okay.
abuse.
That's
Yeah.
okay. You don't have to understand that. So, so what was it like before Vyvanse in terms of having ADHD? What kinds of things happened for you?
Yeah, I guess things would just not get done. I I still have, I mean, there's still a lot of issues I have with my ADHD. Like I do procrastinate still, and the house is still a mess really easily and that kind of thing. But yeah, like things wouldn't get done. I wouldn't be able to like read a book as easily because I would have to read the same page over and over to like remember everything. I still
Mm,
have to read the same thing over and over, but not as many times, I guess,
right.
which is an improvement. Yeah, so it's kind of like small things, but also there was weird little things I noticed, like music sounded different when I started taking Vyvanse because my brain could actually follow what the melody was,
Oh my
whereas
God. Hadn't thought
yeah,
of that.
before my brain would go all over the place, so I would kind of like zone out. So yeah, it did change like how my attention span worked.
And what did it do in terms of your creativity? I know we talked a little bit about that, but in terms of, we hear of people with ADHD having intense creativity and doing, amazing things. Does Vyvanse change that? Does it lessen your creativity?
Yeah, I guess a lot of people worry about that. For me, it didn't because my brain still, because there's still the way my brain works is still an ADHD brain, so it
Mm.
still goes off in all those different directions. It's just now it's a little bit more easier to control maybe. But yeah, I still feel just as creative.
Um, and when you're in the throes of working on a project, whether it's a film, I think you've also done apps or video.
Games.
It's a video game,
Yeah.
which it blows my mind because clearly you're having. I know in film you're pulling together a bunch of different elements to make a film happen, but it seems to me in a video game you're pulling all way more elements together to pull that off. I could be wrong. I've never made one. Um, does it help you in terms of, or in the Vyvanse in terms of organizing that stuff, or does it, is not having it in your system help more? And
It
forgive me if that's a terrible question.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that because sometimes when I don't take Vyvanse, I find I do better with my daily tasks. And then sometimes when I do take it, it's better though. Like, so it's kind of like, I don't know. So I can't really say that it is better or worse. I don't know.
Mm, no, it's okay. You
Yeah.
don't have to. Um, so when you talk about having manic episodes with psychosis, one of the things that people always are sort of asking is, what does psychosis mean? And of course, I could bring in a therapist to talk about it, but that person is less likely to have ever had an episode of psychosis. So, are
Mhm.
you okay at telling us what that means? What is it? What happens when you have a psychotic episode?
Yeah, so for me it was the first one was an antidepressant I was taking just pushed me into mania. I was also falling into unrequited love, which happens to me quite a lot in my life. But that puts like falling in love can put stress on you, like even if your relationship is working. So it was like combination of stress. I was also like not sleeping on the best bed, because I was just moved to Montreal. So there's a bunch of stress, and then this antidepressant made me manic. And I just remember it was like being caught in a story, and it was like my brain was putting together all these stories about what things meant. And so like suddenly, like, oh, if there was like if I could see a bird outside my window, that meant such and such. And if I could hear this thing, then that meant such and such. And that was part of this other story. And it was like a lot of like, I don't know, I was also reading a lot of that one was the one where I got really into the Bible and I was like reading a lot of like biblical parts, and then those stories I mean I think whoever wrote Revelations was probably having a psychotic episode. So those stories all got mixed in, and yeah, but it feels like you're stuck in a story that doesn't end, and but you don't know that it's a story your brain is making up. It feels very real, like you think this is all really happening. Even if you're just like in your apartment, like just going nuts, I guess, whatever you
Mm,
want to say, but it's just like, yeah, you get stuck in a fictional world that your brain's making
right.
up. And then some people can like, act out or whatever they call it, but like where those are, like if somebody goes out naked into the street or something like that, or like, and that's when they like usually take you to the hospitals if they think you're like a danger to yourself or to others. Yeah, so but yeah, and I don't really know a way to like come down from those except to like go to the hospital. I've only ever had two manic episodes, but both times I had to go to the hospital, so.
And what did they do at the hospital that helped you come out of that?
It was anti no, they didn't really give me antidepressants. They gave me mood stabilizers and antipsychotics and I think Ativan.
Hmm.
Yeah, they mostly try to make you like sleep so you can like finally calm down. Which I get. It's very boring though, but
Oh,
yeah.
I get it. But so the solution was sleep?
I mean, mainly. I mean, also, those pills are doing all kinds of things in your brain, and I don't know the whole mechanism behind them, but I still take them. So, because I know, because I did when I went off them, it all happened again. So
Right,
that's why I stay on them.
right.
But yeah.
I had I have a friend who had paranoid schizophrenia. And she talked about this whole other world, this whole other land that she would go to, and everything was wonderful in that land, and but that it was part of her psychosis. And she, things here in this world weren't that great, but this world was wonderful. And unfortunately, of course, she has been on medication that has stopped those things from being a part of her life, and she's okay with that. But it was something that she had to give up because that world was it was a good world. It wasn't scary or mean or nasty. Nothing bad was happening to her in it, and so
Hmm.
yeah, this is kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Um, so one of the things you talked about was your sister is nonverbal.
Hmm.
Um, it's an interesting thing because you and I are both artists, and in lots of ways, even if you're a filmmaker and you have a script and actors who are saying certain things, there's a ton of things in that script that are nonverbal, right? It's the angle of the camera or the lighting or how something is said or somebody's gesture or language is so much of our language is nonverbal. But when you talk about your sister being nonverbal, uh, how do you know what she's saying?
Um, I mean, she did learn like a little bit of sign language when she was in school, so she
Mm,
does signs for like eat and drink and that kind of thing and
right.
like um yeah, and there's like maybe 5 words she can say. So she's not totally nonverbal. Like she can say mommy. She still calls me sister because that's all she knew.
Right.
She doesn't know how to say brother. She used to say gummy for like our grandparents and kitty cat. And I think pizza. I think those are the 5 words she says. Yeah. So the important ones. Yeah. So I mean, I think she would like point at things that she wanted and like reach for things and I think she's got a sign for like when she wants something. So there's that too. So.
Right.
So there are like ways she like gets her needs met by like communicating in like a nonverbal way. I don't know, it's kind of interesting. Like I don't know, I even like I don't want to compare her to a dog, but even like pet dogs I've noticed they like figure out ways to like
Hmm.
communicate with
Yes.
nonverbal ways. So yeah.
I have a little nephew who, um, I think he was 6 or 7. He's autistic, 6 or 7 before he actually started talking, and he does talk now. He doesn't choose to talk. He will grunt or say yes or no, or if he wants to ask something, he will. So he has language. There's no doubt about it. But I will tell you, and this is what you said made me remember him, is that when he was 5 or 6, when most kids are talking up a storm, he never said a word, but my God, you knew exactly what he wanted and what he was saying. And I haven't been able to ever fully explain how my experience of that, but it was he wasn't using words, he wasn't pointing, he wasn't even necessarily grunting, and that which is what you would think. He literally had nonverbal language down to a fine art, and you had no doubt what he wanted, what he felt, what he was happy about, what he didn't want. I mean, he did not need words to talk. So
Mhm.
it was very
Yeah.
cool that way. um so what's on the horizon, Theo, for you?
Yeah, right now I'm an artist in residence, like the queer and trans artist in residence at the Mark S. Bonham Center for Sexual Diversity at the University of Toronto this school year. So I'm doing a project on queer, no, well, they might be queer, but mostly on transgender climate migrants or like people who have been displaced through climate disasters. So next week I'm going to start interviewing 2 people who went through some fires in California, fires and floods.
Mm-hmm.
And who were like evacuated to the shelter, and I have like 2 research assistants the university set me up with, so they've been looking up all this detailed information on the fires and sort of the unique challenges that queer and trans people face with climate change, um, like difficulties with gender identity at the evacuation shelters and
Right.
losing access to prescription medication and stuff like that. So
Mm.
yeah, so I'm working on that, and then I'm also working on a feature film, which I think we're gonna try and get funding for next year to shoot, which I've been working on forever.
Can you tell us anything more about your feature film?
Yeah, it's called Machisco Tao, Evil Fire, and it's about a Indigenous lesbian woman who can set fire to people and things with her mind. But she gets the power from the Northern Lights. And I made a short film about it that was on Crave for a couple of years, but yeah, and it's mainly about like murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls and two-spirits and it's kind of like like a cathartic film really. Like I
Mm-hmm.
want people to feel like their rage
Right.
is sort of like, productive, or like, I don't know. It's like an outlet for like Indigenous women and girls and two spirits rage
Yeah.
on film, basically. Yeah.
Rage is so important.
Mhm.
And, as women, for women, we are often taught to be nice, and rage is not ever something our parents hoped for us.
Mhm.
But I believe that rage is something that we absolutely have to get to fully embrace who we are as people. So, Theo,
Mhm.
thank you for coming and chatting with me. And I have appreciated your honesty and your ability to speak about things that lots of people have a hard time even describing. So you've done it well, and I appreciate it so much for doing
Yeah,
that.
thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. And we'll be right back, folks.
It's estimated that 1 in 2 Canadians will be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime. For many, the physical, emotional, and financial burdens are heavy. The Volunteer Cancer Drivers Society ensures they never have to worry about a ride to and from treatment, offering safe, reliable, and free transportation for all patients. Now they're expanding their service across the mainland, and they need more volunteer drivers to join their fleet. If you have a vehicle, a valid driver's license with at least 5 years of experience, and a passion for helping those in need, the Volunteer Cancer Drivers Society would love to have you. Visit volunteercancerdrivers.ca to learn more.
You're listening to Rethreading Madness on Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. I'm Bernadine Fox. Rethreading Madness is coming up to its 6th anniversary of being on air. We produce and air each week out of CFRO 100.5 FM on the unceded traditional territory of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh nations around Vancouver, BC. RTM was one of the first radio programs to focus on mental health issues here in Canada, in an area swamped with statements from therapists rooted in colonial ideas about mental health and trained in the DSM. RTM works to ensure that the voices of those with lived experience have agency and opportunity to define who they are and what is true for them. Who listens to us? Beyond those with lived experience, our audience includes their friends and partners, along with therapists, counselors, and students of psychology. Since 2022, all of our programs have been uploaded to the Mental Health Radio Network and can be downloaded from all podcast platforms. So if this show was of interest to you, you might find the rest of our programs informative as well. You can find them by searching for Rethreading Madness wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Tanuyap. Quiget Yuans Queensna. Hi everybody, my name is Quiget Yuans. I'm a member of the Squamish Nation and the Yagalanis clan of the Haida Nation. You're listening to Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. We live, work, play, and broadcast from the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations.
You're listening to Rethreading Madness on Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. I'm Bernadine Fox, and I have the pleasure today of talking with two women, Jennifer Kramer and Amy Nordhues. Folks might remember Amy from a few episodes back. We've certainly talked before about therapy harm, and she's here with Jennifer to talk about their film that they're putting together. It's called #TherapyToo, and it is a film about therapy harm. Welcome, Jennifer and Amy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you guys tell folks a little bit about who you are so they know who's talking to them?
I was harmed by a therapist about a decade ago and wrote a book and started a website and started advocating for therapy harm survivors, doing podcasts and things like that. And that is how I connected with Jennifer. And I'll let you say, Jennifer.
Thanks. That was Amy Nordhues, just so people know. Jennifer, tell people who you are.
Well, I'm also a therapy harm survivor. And I have a film background. My family's in the film industry. I live an artistic life. I had my primary training as an actor. I'm also a classical pianist and now a writer-director. And I was thrilled that I was able to meet Amy online. That's how we found each other, from very different backgrounds, but we've come together in this absolutely perfect union. That
And
we're,
what drew you together, Jennifer?
well, like, you know, as Amy, I'm also a therapy harm survivor, and my story, you know, I was one of those people that was pursuing another public kind of career, and was extremely confused, to say it mildly, traumatized by my experience, as many of us are. But I was one of those people that was never going to call tell. I was going to take it to my grave. Literally, I didn't think anybody would ever be able to even comprehend what happened to me, because I had multiple bad experiences, which for me made it seem 100 times more likely that it was my fault. So I was filled with shame. And it was just by chance that I, you know, was watching YouTube on, you know, one morning, and here, probably this show was maybe the very first thing, Bernadine, your show I listened to, where Amy was being interviewed. And it was like hearing my own story. We had our abusers, hers was male, mine was female. And there's a lot of differences, but so many similarities. I know you hear this all the time. And it was as if the way Amy spoke, she was talking about my feelings.
Right.
And, you know, and I saw her website and it said, reach out. And I remember being afraid to, and bringing it up to my mother, who, you know, was like 2 weeks. And she said, Jennifer, just call her, just call her. And I did. And it was just, she was amazing, as Amy always is. Really, it was a blessed meeting for me, and very healing. And I'm just so glad, I'm so grateful that it happened, you know, that I did that I did actually reach out to her.
Mm-hmm. I think it's very telling. I work with people, because this is my volunteer work outside of radio, is working with people who have experienced therapy harm. And I work with people, as I'm sure Amy does, all over the world. And the thing that always, it surprises me, and it shouldn't, is that the stories are the same. That you know, here are people coming from isolation, they haven't talked to anybody else, and they come forward, and the story they're telling you is a story you heard yesterday, or the day before, or a week ago, or 2 months ago. And it becomes really clear. I mean, they're not in charge of what happened to them, they're not responsible, they didn't cause it to happen, just like you said. And so this playbook is one that's being perpetrated by the offending therapist. And so I'm always sort of blown away by how consistent they are. And on some level, as you said, that's a blessing, because we can come together, we can talk about it, we can share our stories and hear each other.
Yeah, that's my only form. I don't think I will ever go to therapy ever again. My situation, and well, all of the situations are terrible, but I never had the blessing of having a good therapist. I just had shockingly multiple bad experiences. But the healing for me is the survivors.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I mean, it's really, it is a beautiful thing. I can honestly say, we met for this teaser, and you know, and my story isn't featured. I'm directing and producing with Amy, and you know, I feel like I'm exactly where I should be, because I love these people. I mean, I have such compassion because I've been through it myself, but I genuinely love them, and
Right.
and their stories are my healing too. Them
Mm-hmm.
telling their stories and their testimonies are also my healing. I'm not telling my own, but through them, I am telling my own.
Yes.
And so that's really a beautiful healing thing for me.
And the film you're doing is called #TherapyToo. And just as you know, because you are going to be featuring the stories of people who have survived this, it is important for everybody to recognize, even though it's a film, it is a form of peer support. And just like listening to this radio program or going on a Reddit forum or a Facebook page, talking to other people who've gone through this, one of the things they know is that peer support is one of the most healing things people can do. And that's outside of the medication and outside of seeing their therapist and outside of psychology or psychiatry. And so peer support is a very important thing. And I've said this over and over, as I believe it's because being accepted for who you are in that moment, wherever you're at, is a very healing thing. So that's what you're having. This film, you've talked about it as being a deep dive. Can you explain what that means?
Amy, I don't want to take all do all the
No,
talk.
please do.
Well, yeah, it is. Amy and I on this journey, we really don't want to just do a short version of this subject, and I feel it's a series. It's only a series that I believe survivors can do, because we don't want to leave any stone unturned about all the various things you go through when you are harmed by the therapist. So it's going to, Amy is the through line. So she is the person that we follow through the whole 7 episodes. And it starts with her story and how she turned her trauma into triumph and helping others. And it's through Amy that we meet all these other survivors, and we do a deep dive into all the various issues, which are going to include, yes, of course, sexual abuse, but emotional abuse, I feel really needs to be understood, because I feel that form of abuse is much harder to get unstuck from, because there is nothing to point to like, oh, they had sex with me. Oh, if it's just emotional, the therapist can really scoot away from really doing something as harmful as they really did. You know what I'm saying? They can really gaslight, and I think the victims feel even more confused. And so we want to deal with that. We want to deal with male survivors, because that is something that people don't understand, that men are also abused. We want to deal with intersectionality and harm, which is when a therapist does not have an intersectional lens, such as if you're African American or if you're transgender or gay, they pathologize your issues instead of looking them as real discrimination, and that is harmful. We deal with collusion in the field. We deal with how therapists protect each other. We're going to deal with where do you turn after? I mean, this is a huge issue for me. I mean, if you don't get the proper therapist after, it's so bad. It's so bad. I don't think that therapists really understand, even in their own profession, what it means when they're treating somebody who was harmed by a previous therapist. That is a different patient. That is not even a traumatized patient. That is a different patient. And I would love to see education in that area, because I can say that this is one of the worst parts of my story, is I just did not have competent people. And that led me into the hands of another perpetrator. It's just a really big issue. And then Amy and I together, our final episode is going to be what we call the reunion episode, because our number one thing in this process is that we never want to be responsible for turning away, rejecting, or causing any more pain to another survivor. So every person, every survivor that we meet will be included in our reunion episode, where we all come together as a #TherapyToo movement. So that's kind of the overview of the entire series. But we feel a tremendous responsibility that we don't do this lightly, that we we go all in 150%, or, there is no other option, because it's that important a topic to us.
Absolutely. And I think if I'm hearing you right, reading through the lines of what you're talking about, you're also talking about female perpetrators, which is a very important thing to talk about. And they have found that almost half, like the ratio between male and female perpetrators, is equal to a large degree.
Oh, yeah. I mean, mine were female, so absolutely.
Yeah, so were mine. Mine. I only had one.
Yes.
Thank God. And the other thing, of course, talking about emotional abuse and the other ways. I mean, it is true that in this issue, the police officers, the crime part of it, the therapists who take cases, not therapists, the lawyers who take cases, all sort of kind of hinge on whether or not sexual exploitation happened.
That's
right. And so there is so many people that come and say, well, I don't know if this happened to me or what, because there was no, and it, you know, and it was a woman. And so maybe it's not. And, you know, how to, I mean, and you're so right, emotional abuse. And they know this, this issue is not anything the mental health industry, all the institutions we have out there haven't dealt with before. All of these issues are represented in child molestation, spousal battery, rape, human trafficking, clergy abuse. What am I missing? Oh, the Me Too movement. I mean, all of those same issues, that same pattern, the same way, you know, people groom their victims and then exploit their victims. And even when you talk about having more than one therapist that has harmed you, you know, that we see that play out with child victims of sexual assault, where they are actually passed around to.
Yes, it's one of the hardest parts, I think, of my story that I've had to deal with, because it's been very difficult. And Amy is my advocate. She is the person that, and thank God for you, Amy. I mean, you really have taken your story and turned it in for good. Turned it into good, you know, by helping others. I was one of those people, and that's why I feel so strongly in this journey that Amy must be the through line, because it's a really harrowing story from my perspective. And even when you're really teaching the world, you know, you have to get to their heart, and you have to have a heroine in the story so that you can educate them at the same time. And Amy really is that person. And I have such a joy in being able to do that I can be one of the instigators to, you know, celebrate Amy and the people that she does help. So that's a great privilege for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. Amy is a powerhouse. Amy, what do you have to say about that? Put you right on the spot there.
Yeah, she's so sweet. I mean, I love that. You know, I love that I can be that lifeline for others, because when I was first taken advantage of, I reached out to Tell, and I read your book, and I read Amelie's book, and whatever I could find. And I was desperate to know that I wasn't alone and that it wasn't my fault. And that's how all of the Tell emails would end. You're not alone. It's not your fault. I needed to hear it over and over and over and over, as if I was drowning. And that just helped me keep my head above water long enough until I could get to the next step. And so to be able to turn around and see people feeling that same way, they finally have something they can grab onto just so they can keep their head above water. It feels amazing.
I think that it's, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Sorry,
no, go ahead.
I just think that it's really an important thing to do, because I believe, and I know, not just believe, I know that out there in the world, people really don't understand the catastrophic damage that can happen to somebody when they are betrayed in such a profound way by their therapist, whom they have told all their secrets and given all their trust and all their vulnerability to. That damage is so profound. And the mental health industry, in my opinion, does not understand it. They believe that they've learned all about it in their ethics courses, but if you ask them, what did you learn? They say, well, we learned that if we did that, we would lose our license. And you say, what did you learn about the client? What would happen to the client? They say, nothing. And so they come out of these courses believing nothing happens to the client. And it is so far beyond the truth that.
May I add one? I'm sorry, Amy, did I interrupt
you?
The
only thing also that I ever hear is, we're taught in school not to have sex with our patients. Okay, that is, I mean, you know, I've read so many research articles on this topic, and the emotional damage is done to the client before sex even becomes a part of the relationship. The emotional trauma is what we're talking about, whether it goes sexual or not. And they don't even learn about that or speak on that.
No,
it's shocking to me.
Can I say, I want to also acknowledge that there's all forms of predation. Could be sexual, could be romantic, erotic, which doesn't involve sex, but it still could be sexual and emotional. But I also want to talk about there's also harm that can be done by incompetence, incompetent,
Absolutely.
insensitive, cruel, cavalier, so much damage. And I don't want to leave that out. So I just needed to add that.
No, and it's very important. And that kind of also goes to, we have, people don't like me saying the word predators, but I think they're predators, and they are grooming their clients specifically to exploit them. If somehow the grooming gets interrupted and they go, oh crap, I can't do that, so I got to stop here, that grooming still caused harm. We also have people who don't seem to understand yelling at your client is not a therapeutic technique, or using them as your sounding board, or using them as one of the things that I read recently is this guy saying, hey, I've been going to therapy for a while, and I'm just a little confused because I'm always doing the wrong thing and she's always correcting me. I'm always, saying the wrong thing, as with her being a woman, and, am I okay? Am I wrong? I mean, and I'm, with the list of comments that came from therapists after that, which is, we're human too. We can't read your mind. Which we're not always going to say the right thing, that you're over analyzing is, all of these ways in which therapists get an out, but the client,
I'm only human. That's my favorite.
Yes, and we don't want to forget the retaliation piece that we want to cover in this film on the diagnoses that we all receive after we report or they think that we're going to. We all are either borderline, psychotic, delusional, or possibly, maybe we have DID, but it became laughable because we all had a variation of the same diagnosis.
Absolutely. Borderline has become a joke. We need to stop, unfortunately. Where can people find out more about the film?
If they would go to my website, do you want me to spell it out, or will you have it? www.amynordhues.com, which is AMYNORDHUES.com. There's a therapy harm documentary tab there, and you should be able to find out everything you need to know there. Fundraising page, if you're interested in participating, all those sorts of things.
Okay.
We also have a Facebook page as well, and we're in the process of creating the project's own individual website. Look for updates on our Facebook page.
And the Facebook page is #TherapyToo?
#TherapyToo docuseries.
Okay. And just so people know where you can get more information about therapy harm, if you've just come into this, you can get a hold of TEL, which is the Therapy Exploitation Link Line. You can reach them through therapyabuse.org, or send me an email and I'll make sure you get there. Or you can also now #TherapyAbuse, and that will get you to Reddit pages and other Facebook pages as well if you're looking for information. So thank you guys for coming. When is the predicted hopeful release of the film?
Well, the predicted hopeful release cannot be determined. We're in the pre-production phase. Of course, we do have a long road. That's why we need support.
Right.
We really do need support. So I know it's hard in today's world with how things are. But if you have any kind of a experience from therapy harm, or anybody that you know and you're passionate about this subject, you want it to end, you want to create a conversation, please support us and donate if possible, because we would hope that it could get on a big streaming platform, but we may be having to do some episodes on our own, and we need money. That's the truth. We need support. So,
and when you say money, how much money?
Well, we actually have to budget out every single episode, but I can say that just to film a teaser for a one-day shoot was probably a little over $10,000, and that's with some people paying their own travel and hotels to come down here, a phenomenal crew that was smaller than usual, a space that worked only for a one-day shoot. So, filmmaking is very expensive, but this is more than just a film. That's what I want people to know. This is a creation of a movement. This is about something that is so important. And if we want to end this, and we want to even enlighten therapists about the role that they hold in their patients' lives, which I think they need to know. If they could support us, that would mean everything to us.
Absolutely. I agree. Well, kudos to both of you for what you're doing. It's a very needed project, and I hope that the funding flows in and everything just works hunky-dory dandy. I haven't said that in a long time. So thank you both for coming.
Yes, thank you.
And we'll be right back, folks.
Oh, you hear this? A lot of people call this rock and roll. Swings. This is done with the, let's see, with the left hand, yeah. And the right hand fits in with something like this here. Here we go now.
Yeah, it's called rock and roll, and you can hear all about it on Rock Talk. Discover the hidden but enchanting side of the music. Friday mornings at 9 o'clock.
Oh, if that isn't enchanting, nothing is. Go ahead, kids. Dance. Go crazy.
You're listening to Rethreading Madness on Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. I'm Bernadine Fox, and I am speaking with various writers from a new book that's been available since the beginning of May through Bell Press. It's a new anthology out from Vancouver. It's called Off the Map, and it is featuring Vancouver writers with lived experience of mental health issues, which is right up our alley here at Rethreading Madness. And so I have the pleasure of talking to several of the writers from that book and find out what they wrote about, why they wrote about it, and what they're hoping happens with this book. So the first person I get to talk to is Venge Dixon. Venge, did I say your name right?
Yes, you did.
You know, we're Facebook friends, so I see your name all the time. It never occurred to me that I might not know how to say your name, but once I said it, it didn't sound like it was the right name, but Venge is the right name. So you're one of the writers in this anthology. What inspired you to write for this book?
Well, I took part in a workshop that was organized by Seema Shah and run by Betsy Warland. And there were a lot of writers from around Vancouver with experience of madness. And we were all just workshopping ideas and talking about ideas. I've been working on a comic book for some time, and it was mainly for that I was there. But eventually we came to a place where we decided to write actually stories for an anthology, and this one came to me.
It's a lovely story. Do you want to tell people what it's about?
The story is about my rush to the other side of the country to try and get away from myself, and my meeting with a cat who became a really important part of my life and kept me alive during that time period that I was there, which was about 7 years.
Did you say 17 years or 7 years? 7 years. Yeah, it would be a very old cat if it was 17 years. It's a very old cat, although there are cats that live that old. I think one of the things that people underestimate is just how much we might stay alive for a being that's in our life, whether it's a child or another person who's dependent on us or an animal, and how much impact that can have on our lives. When you think about the impact Linus had, other than staying alive, what else did he bring to your life?
He gave me a sense of just being. He was an incredibly patient person. And a great hunter, and he showed me a lot of what was around me because I was living in the country. And because I had been so inside of myself, he helped me step outside of that and look around, because he was doing that and I was looking at him, and then I looked farther.
You were going to read a piece of your writing that is in this book. Are you able to do that now?
Yes, I'll just read the first part of the story.
Okay.
The story is called Linus. Traveling east, driving an old souped-up pickup named Amadeus. I hadn't driven for 10 years, nor had I driven anything bigger than a sedan. A blind run from defeat, shame, agony. East, east, and further east, because east is not west. Defeat, shame, and agony arrived a week or so after I did. Like Big Bear Bob Height said, wherever you go, there you are. I bought a 100-year-old falling down house in Murphy Cove, a small community on the eastern shore. I had 3 neighbors, each a half acre or more apart, from me and from one another. I knew none of them. This complemented my uncertainty. I settled in, howling into the beauty of silence, waiting for the right moment to end my life quietly, far away from family, not wanting to bequeath them the funeral arrangement. I was a brokenness squatted over by egoism and self-doubt.
Yeah, it's a beautiful passage. I love that line, howling into the beauty of silence. It evokes so much in me that I'm not even sure I could tell you what it evokes. I just know it evokes in me a sense of being in appreciation of the space it creates. I don't know how to say that any differently than that, but it creates a space that I really quite appreciate. Your writing is very well done, and the relationship between you and Linus it becomes very, very clear. And you're right, animals, come into our lives and they change things if we allow them to change things, and it's very clear. How did Linus come to live with you?
He had, well, a friend of a friend told her about him, and then I was sort of pressured into taking him because they kept giving notices about him being on death row. And his person was another lesbian. I'm a lesbian, and this person was an older woman who suffered from dementia, and she could no longer take care of her cat. So she was in the hospital, and Linus was alone. And eventually he came to me against my will, really, because I really didn't think I could take care of him. I didn't think I was up to taking care of him. But, the death row thing had me.
Yes, you were contemplating suicide.
I was. That's why I went there.
And Linus became a problem in your contemplation of that suicide.
That's right. Because he was a living being who I had accepted responsibility for, I didn't feel I could just suddenly leave him to his own devices or to yet another person. So I stayed with him. He kept me here.
Are you happy that you're here? Or is that a hard question to
That's
answer?
a hard question. Depends on the day. Depends on the day.
Depends on the day, yeah. No, I get that. It's true. It does depend on the day. Where's Linus now?
Linus died after we came to Vancouver. It's a really sad story, so I won't tell that because it kind of
I'm sorry.
changes the story in the book. But I'd miss him every day.
Yeah, I understand that. Our animals are very important to us. Why did you want this story to go out to people?
Well, at first I wasn't sure what to write about, and then I thought I needed another cat friend of mine had died, so I thought couldn't write about him. I'd have to write back in time to the time when I had never written about Linus, and Linus was what pulled me out of a really terrible place and allowed me to see some things that I hadn't been seeing, and just take time to sit and watch things other than myself, to get out of my own self. So I think that's why I decided to write it, because I thought, well, that's one of the things a lot of us struggle with, is being inside of ourselves so deeply, and that difficulty getting out. And animals definitely can do that for us, even if they might not be our cat, it might be a bird, might be like a crow. Watching the crows can do that, or just watching nature can do that. Just to not be in myself. And I thought that would mix well with what's happening in the book, although I haven't read the other stories and I'm really excited. about reading those.
There are some really wonderful stories in this book. Yours, in my opinion, is one of the ones that I appreciate a lot. And I think probably because I have cats. My cats are important. But I also had a dog who came into my life in kind of the same way. I mean, I never intended to have a dog. My grandchild wanted to take this dog and fix it because it was going to die, and it was going to die. It was 8 weeks old, and it was very sick, and it was going to die. And so we brought it home and fixed it up and tried to take it back to where it belonged, and that didn't happen. And so we ended up trying to figure out how to find a home for it. But as we were doing that, of course, every week this dog would grow like.
Yeah, and then you can't. Like,
it gets harder and harder. You're going, oh, it's a cute little 8 week. Oh no, wait a minute, it's like 40 pounds now, and oh wait a minute, it's 90 pounds, and and it absolutely loves you. I mean, it just loved me, and I mean, it was just one of the great joys of my life, having this dog that just about did me in, because it was 90 pounds and really needed to run, and I have chronic fatigue and can't do that. And so he did find a home. He is happily ensconced in the Kootenai Mountains and exactly where he needed to be. But yeah, so I understand having animals come that you didn't expect to have, and having them just literally change your life all for the better. So thank you, Venge, for coming and chatting with us about this.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be right back, folks.
Co-op Radio is listener-supported and listener-owned. As a Co-op Radio member, you can join the broadcasters who create and present radio shows, as well as have a say in the station's management. You'll own a part of the station. All this for just as little as $5 a month, and tax-deductible too. For details, go to coopradio.org and press the donate button. That's coopradio.org.
You're listening to Rethreading Madness on Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. I'm Bernadine Fox, and that's our show. My thanks to Amy Nordhues and Jennifer Kramer, Theo Cuthand, and Venge Dixon for chatting with us today. Music today was by Sherry Ulrich, and to all of you, thank you for joining us, and stay safe out there. You've just listened to Rethreading Madness, where we dare to change how we think about mental health. We air live on Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM, every Tuesday at 5 p.m. or online at coopradio.org. If you have questions or feedback about this program, or want to share your story, or have something to say to us, we want to hear from you. You can reach us by email, rethreadingmadness@coopradio.org. This is Bernadine Fox. We'll be back next week. Until then.
When I've never been further from knowing what the hell I'm gonna do, when I can't seem to find my way under or over or through, just when I'm ready to give up the fight, there you are when we turn out the lights, and it's alright, it's alright, don't you worry, it'll be alright. Why do I always believe it when you tell me everything's gonna be alright? Yeah. Why don't I wonder how you know? Well, surely you don't have all of the facts. You could be just making it up. Why don't I ever think of that? It's some kind of magic in the words that you breathe, saying, baby, take it from me. It's alright, it's alright, don't you worry, it'll be alright. Why do I always believe it when you tell me everything's gonna be alright? Everything's gonna be alright. With anyone else, it's such a cliche, just words people say to be nice. some